Good day, and welcome to the Plant Engineering Webcast. The future of productivity gain is Industry 4.0, sponsored by enterprise provider SAP. I'm Kevin Parker, an editor with Plant Engineering, and we'll be joined today by Mike Lackey, Global VP of Solution Management, Digital Manufacturing. Here are some tips to help you get the most from today's webcast. If you experience issues with the slides or audio, refresh your browser or click the Refresh Media button under the presenter's picture. Control the volume of this webcast by adjusting your computer or that of the platform. For technical problems, click the question mark at the top right-hand corner of the screen to access a list of system checks to try before contacting an online technician. If you do need a technician, type a message in the Ask a Question box and someone will get to you as quickly as possible. The Ask a Question box is also used for speaker questions. The live Q&A session will begin after the presentation concludes. Today's webcast is being recorded. You will receive an email within a week with the link to the on-demand event. To download a certificate of completion and a PDF copy of the presentation, use the Event Resources tab on the left-hand side of the screen. Those documents will also be available with the on-demand version of this webcast. I'd now like to introduce today's speaker, Mike Lackey, Global VP of Solution Management, Digital Manufacturing. Mike Lackey joined SAP in 2008 through the acquisition of Visiprise and is today Global Head of Solution Management, Digital Manufacturing. With previous roles at Visiprise, NetVendor, and Teradyne Manufacturing Software Group, Mike has insight into both manufacturing software and design collaboration markets based on more than 30 years of experience in the manufacturing sector. Mike earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology and an MA in Business Administration from Mercer University with dual concentrations in International Business and Marketing. Thanks for joining us today, Mike. I understand you're going to begin by describing the market forces and dynamics driving your customers towards digital transformation based on Industrial 4.0.
Well, Kevin, thank you for having me today. And after hearing that bio and introduction, we definitely got to shorten it down a little bit. But it's good to be here. And you're right. Look, change is inevitable. And if you look at the change that we've went through, especially in manufacturing over the last 2 to 3 years, it started with Brexit, and then we had the trade wars and tariffs, and then, on top of that comes the pandemic with COVID-19. And, that's really put a lot of pressure on our customers. And, how we respond is no longer about, success. It's more about failure and even, survival. But the manufacturing environment is changing. The focus is no longer on capacity, but the ability to respond, faster to customer needs and the changing, market demands. But at the same time, our customers and manufacturers must still, control cost and quality. Up until recently, one of the challenges with supply chains were mainly measured by efficiency metrics. But, today with trends that are emerging that present complex challenges and put the supply chain and manufacturing, at the center of decisions, not only for business success, but as a company's differentiational strategy. So, companies in manufacturing are facing numerous challenges that include, smarter quantities. The products are getting smarter. Maintaining high quality in volatile markets, knowing what that demand is, and making sure that I have the capacity and the agility to deliver on that demand. Customers want more individualized products, maybe not down to a lot size of one, but those production lots and those batches are getting much smaller. And that means we have to have our processes in manufacturing in a manner that we can respond. Life cycles of products are getting shorter and shorter. There's a faster time to market to stay competitive. And business models are changing from selling products to delivering solutions. So when I look at this, it's not about capacity, it's about agility. And, and the speed to market. But one thing that we're seeing is product and portfolio rotation. And what that means is a single product is not dedicated to a plant. I talk to a lot of customers on how SAP can help them meet their business challenges, and one of the main ones I had, just a few weeks ago, or back when this pandemic really hit, I had a food processing company that came to me and said, Mike, 80% of my business pre-COVID-19 was commercial. I was manufacturing and shipping in bulk. Today, 70% of my business is consumer. Smaller packaging, smaller lot sizes, more packaging, more deliveries, more customers that are demanding how I package and deliver it. And how they respond to that is really their ability to survive through this pandemic, and they're doing a very good job. But they had to change their processes. It's more about not only efficiency, but about mixed mode production. We're seeing a lot of production that goes from hybrid, starts out as a process in a hybrid environment and moves to discrete before it goes out the door. And, how to have systems that can make sure that I maintain the process integrity, process enforcement, full traceability in these systems, and sustainability is becoming at the heart. It wasn't about getting our workers back in the factory safely after COVID-19. I think we all found a way to do that. It was more about, can my operations hold up? It was the lack of materials that were shutting down plants. And once we figured that out and started looking at our supply chains that were very linear, and said, these supply chains need to be more of a network. And that brought in this whole thing of compliance. All these changes, we stay true to what's in manufacturing. We have to maintain our costs, we have to maintain our quality, and we have to maintain on that customer delivery, because those are the three things that go into that form that says, is that customer a happy customer? Is that customer experience? We all know this, a negative customer experience or a negative product experience leads to a negative customer experience. But the good thing for us is a lot of technologies out there that are really enabling a change in manufacturing. Cloud computing gives us the ability not to take 3 to 5 years to roll out to 40 plants. It gives us the ability to roll out multiple plants in a short period of time here. And have better control of my processes or my software and applications, at those factories, and gives more visibility back into corporate and across all my plants. We cannot look at our plants as single silos. We have to look at all 40 of those plants as how one plant, as one entity, can deliver on my customers' expectations. Seeing a lot of autonomous systems here. I see cobots, robots working next to humans, mirroring what the humans do. And I've seen a new level of automation. Additive manufacturing. 3D printing to me is the most disruptive technology I've seen in manufacturing in the last 20 years. I think we're still on the cusp of before we hit that hockey stick where we're going to see a major acceptance of that. But it's something that a lot of our customers are investigating because it simplifies the whole supply chain. And the great thing about it is that innovation and technology is free in it. The creativeness, you're not held to a tolerance in what we can design. So from design to delivering to our customers is that is something that's really going to change. So there's a lot of great technology enablers out there that are making these changes happen in this digital transformation that we're seeing a lot of customers go through today. So one of the things we're seeing here in Industry 4.0 is it's not something that the fourth industrial revolution has been coming at us since about 2014. It was more of an academic study, and SAP's been a part of this from day one. Then we got on the work streams and started defining what this means. And now we're starting to see customers take advantage of it. And today when I look at Industry 4.0, we've always looked at this integration between the enterprise down to the shop floor. You can no longer have the shop floor as a silo. You need that information, my cost data, my customer delivery data, my customer data, supplier data, inventory data, quality requirements, inspection lots, and things like that come down from the enterprise systems, and it has to meet down on the shop floor. And that bi-directional flow of data from both the operation level up to the top level has been very important. We see a lot of customers doing that today, and they focus on three things they wanted to achieve. One was execution, other was improved quality, and the other was really exceed on delivering to their customers by making sure we've got the right material, but the logistics, which leads to the delivery and to the customers. And these were things that were very important to customers, and that's what we're seeing in this first wave of Industry 4.0 achieving success. So when I take a look, let's take a look at execution. Execution is about process control. It's about controlling my processes, making them repeatable, giving me 100% traceability from parent-child relationships down to individual components, and even through the whole process of when it goes out the door into the logistics stage here. So having that traceability, non-conformance, enforcement, in tracking, and being compliant. And sustainable operations was a big part of the execution. And so customers really focused on that. And manufacturing put a lot of effort into that. It really helped us drive out efficiencies and really helped us increase productivity. And that was a big area in this first phase around Industry 4.0 of what we're seeing today. And customers got huge success. I mean, we went from, when I was in manufacturing, every year if we improved efficiency 3 to 5%, it was a great year. But what's happening today, companies are saying, if I'm going to invest in this digital transformation, I'm going to bring more automation, I'm going to bring more data to the decision making and become more of a data-driven company, I want a jump step in my return. So here's a company that is from Teco, which is one of our big customers in Taiwan. They make industrial motors. They improved their domestic on delivery from 93% to 45%, a 48% jump in domestic on-time delivery, a 35% jump in international on-time delivery, and a 14% improvement in productivity. And if you start thinking about if they keep their customer in mind, what's the most important thing? Hey, I delivered on their expectations, I delivered to them on time, and I have that happy customer here. And they really wanted to become a data-driven company, and every decision they made was with the customer at the forefront and bringing the data they needed to be able to deliver on those expectations of their customers. They are executing now at a higher level than they ever have done before. And as they really move from domestic and out of APJ and move into Europe and move into North America, they're bringing with them this vision for their smart factories and how their smart factories and the steps they took to get them there can now be that differentiator when they start going into new markets and really start this penetration. So a great success story. And this is what our customers are seeing as they start tying data from the enterprise down to the shop floor with that bi-directional movement of data. Then one of the other big drivers here is quality. If we look at what's been one of the cornerstones of manufacturing, it's always been about improving quality. Your brand is the most important intellectual property that you have as a company. And protecting that brand is everything. When I see a quality escape and I see a recall of products, you start thinking about, man, I wonder what that cost is. I wonder what that cost it was to recall those products. What I start thinking about, what was the damage to their brand? Are people saying, well, I'm not so sure I'm going to buy that anymore. They have quality problems. So there's a giant focus, a strategic focus on quality. And companies started using that data based on what was coming in from the engineering, what was coming in from production, what was coming in from the quality engineers, and really customer feedback to really drive quality. And that was another pillar here of what we see from Industry 4.0. Here's a company, Continental, and we think about Continental tires, but this is a vision of Continental that makes industrial springs that goes into automotive. And they had this big desire here. They needed to harmonize standards. They wanted to move production, whether it's from their plants in Germany to the plants in Hungary to the plants in China to the plants in Mexico. They wanted to be able to move production based on demand. So there was this increased focus on efficiency. There was this tighter integration of data from machines with operational data and from the shop floor systems back into their enterprise systems. And they really set the foundation and used Industry 4.0 to really digitize their factories, but set the foundation of the intelligent factory. And this was huge for them. They were able to replan production based on machine capacity. They were able to move production based on where the need was. And this harmonized standardization, I thought, was one of the most brilliant deliveries of what came out of their digitalization or the digital transformation and moving to this smart factory. One of the important things here is they've utilized one of our strongest partners in Europe, a company called IGZ, to help them on this journey. So when you start bringing domain expertise from our ecosystem with the domain expertise from our customers and the domain expertise from your application providers like SAP, you start seeing how this transformation can come together with huge success. And I think one of the things that Industry 4.0 we kind of forget about is logistics. It's one thing to produce it in the time you committed, but if it sits on the dock or it sits in inventory, it doesn't get into the hands of your customers, you haven't finished the journey. So tying our inventory levels to make sure when I make a commitment to a customer, I have the right inventory, the right material in the right location, and I'm integrated into my network of logistics providers. So when that production runs off the production line, it goes straight onto the shipping dock and straight into a carrier, whether it is a truck, whether it is a plane, whether it is a boat or a ship, or whether we're even seeing, being delivered by drones in some major cities. And if we really look at what's happened, we used to be pretty happy when we would get something in 72 hours. Then it went down to 24 hours. Then it went down to 6 hours. And now we're seeing in a lot of major cities, 2-hour delivery. So the expectations of our customers, whether we're in the consumer or the OEM business, is that speed of which I can receive product. And that's something we must really focus on. So I use another example here of one of our big partners, big customers in Germany, ASPOC, that makes lighting systems for the automotive industry, that really had to focus on that delivery because their OEM customers were becoming more and more demanding, and they had to deliver full transparency. So their whole idea or their whole project around digital transformation and the intelligent factory was about optimization. They were able to reduce their lead times by 20%. They got a 50% savings. They were able to do an ROI in a very quick time and saw a 20% reduction in system downtimes. That means on the floor, in the plant, and they were really able to achieve on this target of optimizing their processes that fed into the ability to optimize their business and change the way they are going to support their OEMs, which maintain major contracts. So a connected intelligent manufacturing is at the heart of what drove them. So again, double-digit success when you look at the big picture and you start bringing the right data in the hands of the decision makers, both in the boardroom and at the plant level. With that bi-directional data, you can start driving this double-digit success based on where your business is and what your business is going to look like today, 2 years, 5 years, and even 10 years down the line, because it's changing. And we're seeing change come at us at a speed that we've never seen before.
Well, thanks so much, Mike. This is Kevin again. And I thought it was really interesting the way you talked about supply chains have been evolving, but it's almost as if COVID stress tested them. And we saw where more resiliency was going to be needed. And I really appreciate your pointing that out. And you talked about Industry 4.0, of course, but how are the two going to come together to execute Industry 4.0 going forward?
Kevin, that's a great question. I think that's the question that's on everybody's mind is, how do we bring this together? Because I can tell you today that Industry 4.0 is on a journey as well. I still see a lot of companies talking about what does that mean, and that's why SAP is talking about Industry 4.0 and enabling the intelligent factory, because it goes beyond data just from the enterprise and the shop floor. I used to think that the most important thing was to get the order in production so that we in manufacturing could execute. And I realized I was wrong. It's about getting the customer's requirements, capturing the customer requirements, and getting them down into production. And the customer requirements is different than the order, right? The order is exactly what the customer wants. We need to build it. the customer requirements are, brings in the schedule, it brings in the cost structure, it brings in all these other aspects of what is needed to deliver on those customers' expectations. And it's changing, right? We have to bring our supplier network closer to the factory. If I really look at, the digitalization of the factory and the digitalization of data, we started with the digital twin, and now we have the digital thread that brings, as designed, with as built, with as performed, with as maintained, kind of bringing all this data together, taking advantage of that, digital representation that now can be shared with my customers. We're seeing more and more data go through e-commerce sites. I was talking in COVID with a major retailer that had over 1,000 stores, and they really think coming back on the back end of COVID-19, they may be down to less than 100. So that means that the orders are coming in on these digital sites. That means the data there is no lead time of getting it into the channel to the stores to the customers. It's coming directly into the manufacturer and going straight out to the customer. And that makes a big change. So you're starting to see more and more of these business networks. Instead of silos of information, you're seeing, or silos of factories, you're seeing more and more of business networks, logistics networks, manufacturing networks, asset intelligent networks, all this coming together and providing more data so that you can optimally run the factory. And when we start looking at it from that standpoint of our operations as more of a network and all the partners like service providers and suppliers interacting, you start seeing the more agility and the flexibility that you can start delivering to your customer and how it really changes your business, driving out costs, driving out inefficiencies, and being able to deliver with agility and resilience that you have not had before. That's what this digital transformation is about, is changing the way you service your customer. And to do that, you need more data. You need to bring the data that's at the enterprise with the data that's on the shop floor, operational data with the IT data, and your financial data, your supplier data, your customer data, and that's how you drive change. And that's what we're going to see in the future. So when I look at Industry 4.0, SAP is uniquely positioned. As long as we keep our customers and our employees' experience at the forefront of what we're delivering in our solutions, we're going to simplify and we're going to enable this digital transformation that our customers are going through. And we're doing this with 4 pillars at the heart of our Industry 4.0. The intelligent product. Products are getting smarter. We're seeing more and more intelligence. We're seeing more and more electronics, sensors put into products that can give immediate feedback to not only the user, but also back into how it was designed. So this intelligence of the product is really happening. The intelligent factory, more data being shared from the factory back into the back office with IT, with finance, with my supplier, with my service providers, with my customers. And all this data is coming together so that we can make better decisions. And what I love is in manufacturing, we've been collecting big data for the last 40 years. There's a thing called historians, right? Now everybody's talking about big data. About 70% of that data that we collect in manufacturing, based on a lot of the data that I read, from a lot of the consultants and one of the main experts, goes unused. Well, now at the speed at which we can process data, we can use more of that data and understand the impact on our business. And assets are getting more and more intelligent as well. So how do we maintain those assets? How do I maintain a 99.9% uptime? Because when assets goes down, you have to change. It impacts your production, your production schedule, your capacity, your ability to deliver, and really the mix that you can manufacture in that product. In that factory. But also it's about empowering the people. I know this. If we give the right information at the point of work to our employees, we can drive 3.5 to 5% efficiency improvements just by that. Now you start layering a level of automation on top of that. Now you start seeing how we can get to this double-digit transformation. this double digit in returns, this double digit in efficiencies that we talked about earlier with those customer examples. And tying that all together down with technology enablers and tying the whole digital supply chain together, that's how you really drive, this digital transformation, the resilient supply chain, and bring business networks into it. And that is what's at the heart of what we're driving for in Industry 4.0. Now is the time to start going down that path of digital transformation, not kicking tires, but saying, hey, here's my business strategy. This is how I'm going to implement on that strategy.
Well, thanks, Mike. Again, I'd like to just jump in here a little bit because, we're talking about the intelligent enterprise, and what we want to do is, we've got a prime example of that with the pandemic. And everyone agrees that even once we get past the pandemic, there's going to be additional turmoil coming along for supply chains. Maybe you could talk a little bit as you go through the various silos that you're leading to now about how Industry 4.0 can give an enterprise the agility needed to respond to a disrupted supply chain.
Kevin, another great question because, I don't believe people think the pandemic, it came at us, it came very quickly, and it disrupted the whole supply chain. And, we may get a pass now, but we have to build supply chains that are resilient, that can build the resiliency and the agility into it, that can respond to any challenge that comes our way. Now, if I take a look at the way supply chains were generally looked at, in the past we looked at them as, it was linear, right? You designed, you put the design into manufacturing, you planned for manufacturing, you delivered, and then you maintain your assets. But that's not working any longer because at different stages, it's more of a network here, right? That you're always planning, but yet you're always, when assets and how you maintain those assets, both in delivery and in manufacturing, and in the way we design, how this all comes together. We touch these parts at different times, or these different stages and different disciplines at different times here. And, so it's changed to be this. If we look at our supply chains prior to the pandemic, they were very linear. They were very tied into, to Asia. A lot of it was tied into, the greater China. And, then this pandemic, and I think the trade war started chiseling away at that, but then the pandemic wow, my factories are shut down because I can't get components, I can't get parts. So I think that strategy is still going to be there, but I believe you're going to see the supply chain getting larger and larger. It's going to become more closer to the manufacturing sites, closer to where the customers are. What we're going to see is what we call the design to operate. You go out there and you have a new product design, or you have customer requirements. They come in and you design, and then you start planning. It starts, what is my customer demand? What is my capacity? How optimized is my inventory levels here? And then it's when you capture that design, you start passing it to manufacturing, you start planning, where do I need to manufacture it? What's the impact on it? Then as you come into manufacturing, and we deliver on the product, you don't want it sitting in inventory. The longer it sits in inventory, the longer it has a carrying cost. So you start planning your logistics providers, right? Hey, this product will be ready at 3:42 on Friday. I want it on the truck at 3:44 or 3:45, and that's about the amount of time it's going to take to go from production to the shipping dock, and all the paperwork. And then how we maintain these assets, especially in production, is scheduling that planned downtime so that, hey, I can plan for that impact. And knowing if I have an unforeseen downtime, how do I reschedule and plan production by how quickly can I get that equipment up and going? I mean, these assets are huge, or have a huge impact on not only our ability to deliver, but our ability to manufacture as well. So I think the days of the linear supply chain are gone. I think the days of the more of a network supply chain and a network of manufacturing, that it's going to be required to really achieve the business models that are going forward. From the boardroom down, we're seeing more business models. Hey, I'm not going to be selling a product anymore. I'm going to be selling a service, or I'm going to sell on performance. and billable on performance. And that puts another level of complexity into how we design products and how we manufacture products, and basically how we get these products to the customer as well. So it's all about that customer experience. And again, it's going away from linear and more into a network and a networked approach. And again, I believe the supply chains that build that resilience in them are going to come back closer to the manufacturing plants, which are going to come back closer to the customer. And I believe you're going to see, we're still going to have a lot of these mega plants that are in these low-cost manufacturing countries. And I think you're going to see a lot of what I call micro facilities pop up closer to where the customers are going to do that final mile of manufacturing and that final assembly based on what those customer demands are. But you still need the data. You can't stop when it leaves one factory. We have to know exactly what's delivered to our customers. And that's the big change I believe we're going to see going forward.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's really interesting you talk about complexity. Another whole layer of complexity that's detailed to the manufacturing industries is you've got that other connection down to the shop floor and all of those real-time systems, not to mention getting real-time signals from the supply chain itself. Talk a little bit about that relationship between the intelligent enterprise and the smart factory and those OT operational technologies that are so important to SAP's partners and to SAP itself and to its customers.
Kevin, I think you just hit on one of the biggest challenges that we have out here, right? The good thing is we have standards on the shop floor and automation. PLCs use we have the standards here. We have the OPC standard, and there's an OPC governing body, and we can, as long as you support that OPC standard, you can get data off the equipment. Now, the equipment is getting more and more intelligent. And, we have a lot of the automation vendors. Let's take Siemens. Siemens are coming to manufacturing and says, hey, I designed that PLC or that piece of equipment. I built it. Let me maintain it. And, I'll maintain it and give you a service level and a price. And I tell my customers, guys, you need to look at that. There's a lot of value in that, but that's not your biggest problem. Your biggest problem is you've got 200 pieces of equipment from 24 different vendors, and how those 200 pieces of equipment from those 24 vendors act together as one in a harmonized manner to deliver on my production plan, to deliver on my customer expectations. The number one KPI for a plant manager is actual versus planned. Am I delivering on my plan today? And to do that, all the equipment has to be tied together, and all that data coming off different equipment has to be in a centralized place. That's how you enforce execution, the process enforcement, non-conformance management, that full as-built traceability. But then I also need this level of insight. I mean, the first thing I do in the morning when I log on, we look at email, and I start looking at, where's the important ones I need to deal with today. Well, at the plant level, when the VP of Ops gets up, he wants to see his 40 plants. Does he have any issues that happened over the night? Then in that midnight shift, or the shifts that's already been starting for 8 hours or 12 hours, and what's the impact on their ability to deliver globally? Because, they're all intertwined here. So that have the ability to see all my 40 plants, or in the case of some customers, 400 plants. Now, we have one customer that has 340 plants tied together, and they have visibility of how the key KPIs against all of their plants, and they can tell you how each plant is running, and they know if there is a delivery issue at one of those plants. So getting insight into your global operations and being able to drill down, hey, it's my APA region is showing red. There's 26 plants there. I can drill down into that one plant in Thailand and drill down to the production line and see that a piece of equipment went down. It's going to be back up in 30 minutes. This is the customers that are affected. This is the impact on the schedules. Now I can become more proactive in how I deal with unforeseen downtimes or disruption in production with my customers. And information is key here. And then, maintaining that quality, whether I produce in Indonesia, Mexico, China, Germany, or in the U.S., that my quality standards are adhered to. And I know that when I move production, that I'm still going to deliver with the same quality and the same price structure that I've committed to my customer. And the whole maintenance schedule, being able to be more proactive, being more predictive in how my production facilities are running. A lot about this artificial intelligence becomes smarter, right? I mean, we're starting to see, and we're working with some customers right now where we're putting digital cameras that are with machine learning on the background. So as we enter nonconformance, as the worker's in nonconformance, that camera is picking it up and going, that's what a nonconformance looks like. And as we increase that program, it can bring in data faster. It can identify nonconformances at a deeper level. And that's how we can take technology and improve how we do things on the shop floor in that digital transformation. And every one of my customers today are saying, I have to report the carbon footprint of my plant up into my global operations so that I can report it to the board so it can go in our annual report and we can report it out to analysts. So these are some of the challenges, and this is how tying everything together and bringing it in, again, with that back office data, my financial data, customer data, supplier data, delivery commitments, engineering data for that continuous improvement. This is how you really drive that digital transformation and success. And again, this is a kind of a representation of what we're seeing the intelligent factory moving to. Automatic. We know that before I release an order, I know that the right components, the right material is there in that warehouse at that plant. If not, I'm able to move it or have the suppliers deliver it. We're seeing more, just like the supply chain is becoming more of a network. We're seeing linear manufacturing move from linear production lines to work cells that can be, have more agility. That can, just by programming, I can introduce more products or introduce another process, and tying these different work cells together and knowing the status and where to route that product to the next one with AGVs, making sure our workers have the right data on smart devices at the point of work. And, again, it's showing that digital camera that can really enhance what the employees are seeing, and that can monitor their safety, but it can also be a part of the whole quality inspection process, and then making sure we deliver out to the end user, the customers on time. And to whether it's an OEM or to whether it's consumer, it's all about having the cadence of my factory, knowing what that cadence is, and knowing that I have the agility and that I'm going to deliver on my plan, not just at one factory, but on a global, whether it's 14 factories or 24 or 40 or 400, that I know I'm going to deliver on my customers' expectation. Because we know this, in this digital world, we're seeing more and more competitors come from very interesting places, right? They pop up on a regular basis. And if I can't deliver on my customers' expectations, I promise you this, there's someone out there that's more than happy to take that business and deliver on those customers' expectations. And this is important, and this is why this digital transformation is so important, and looking at what your future of this is going to look like, and looking at how I'm going to be able to deliver on these future business models and the ever-changing, faster demand signals that we're getting from customers going forward. But listen, the intelligent factory is all about agility, about ability to move production. And we have to not only move production, but knowing the impact of moving that production to that delivery schedule, to that cost structure. And if there's do I have the right processes? So again, you can't look at one factory. You have to look at all your factories and how they all work together to deliver on that demand. So there's a demand. So there's a level of collaboration, that has to be increased. That data has to be transitioned, and I have to have that data so that when I make that decision to move production or even to move it out to a subcontractor, I know the impact to my business. I have to know the impact of my costing and my delivery to the customers. We're moving more and more to that pull model based on that demand, that transition, and reducing lead times. Again, the product portfolio rotation, a single factory or a single production line is not going to be dedicated to a single product. When you're doing mass production, it's pretty easy to know, hey, I can set up these lines, I can let them run. But when you're doing mass customization and you don't know what those orders are until they get passed down to the shop floor, you have to be able to have the agility to move production from whether it's from work cell to work cell, from those production lines, from different plants. And, this builds scale. This builds the ability to have that flexibility to deliver on the customer demands today, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And that just drives out these efficiencies and everything we've talked about. And to me, this is at the heart of what we want to achieve.
Well, thanks, Mike. That's great stuff. We're in the home stretch now. If you could leave us with a few key takeaways from today's discussion, what would they be?
Listen, we have to drive change. We can't, supply chains are changing and manufacturing is becoming strategic. And I guarantee you in the boardroom, they're talking about different business models, and they're coming back and they're talking to you, about how manufacturing needs to change to be with it. And a lot of this is about finding the right partner ecosystem, the right application providers, the right system integrators, and bringing everyone together, that team for your company that can deliver it. We can do this. We can reduce costs and drive out efficiencies. We have to have sustainable materials. We have to have sustainable process, and we have to really look at the impact on, on the global aspect. Can I get that material? And we have to really manage that material at a level we haven't seen before. Because again, the thing that shut down the plants at the beginning of COVID-19 was they ran out of material. They couldn't get the material to keep the plants running. And then after we started getting the supply chain started cranking back up and we looked at new sources, then it became about getting the workers back in the plant safely. And how do we maintain that safe environment, for our for our employees? And if we do have an escape, from a COVID-19 or some other escape that's in an environment on our employees, what's the impact and how do I track it? Then we have to maintain this quality and root cause analysis. We have to, continuous improvement. This goes back to the days where lean was really at the forefront of all we're doing. But now we can share more data with our suppliers. We can share more data from factory to factory and plant to plant. We can share more data with development. We can share more data, with the enterprise, the back office, and even marketing, so that we are always bringing this, looking at end-to-end processes and the impact it has on my business. It's one thing to collect data. It's another thing to know what that data means to my business and what does it mean to the ability of my plant. So bringing that and taking advantage of machine learning and, and advanced analytics. I mean, this machine learning is the more and more we collect data, we can automate. What does it mean? It can become more self-correcting. What does this data mean to me? Oh, it means this impact. Well, this is how I need to take action, because the sooner we can take action, the sooner we can control it. One of the best things I can tell you is I had a plant manager looked at me and said, my problem's simple. I can make a lot of bad product fast. Your job is not to tell me, and your application's job is not to tell me that I've made bad product, but it's to tell me I'm trending so I don't make a lot of bad product, because I can't make it up. My factory's running 24/7. These are the type challenges that we're seeing here. Another customer came to me. I have to change my processes because I'll get an order, and this company made shipping containers. About 50% of the world's shipping containers. So when you see a ship out there and you see those containers on there, over 50% of those came from these guys. And they said, Mike, I will get an order for 2,000. And I can make 2,000, but it takes 14 days. They want the 2,000 in 5 to 7 days. So we ramp up, we do what we can and say, you know what, we can deliver 1,500. And what do? They take the customer gives them an order for 15, goes to 20 kilometers down the street, and gives the other 500 to their biggest competitor. They said, my business challenge, I want my 500 back. I want to produce 2,000, and I don't want my competitor to produce this 500 that I should take. So I'm going to change my processes. I'm going to, increase the automation, and I'm going to increase my ability to deliver. There was a great customer called Hunter Douglas that stood up. They make window blinds. And they stood up at Sapphire 2 years ago and said in 8 months, our business went from 50,000 make-to-stock orders to 40,000 make-to-order. And my lead time went from 14 days 10 to 14 days to 3 to 5 days. Now think about that. In an 8-month period, your business went from 50,000 make to stock, where you had lead times and you had visibility, to 40,000 make to order that had to be turned around in 3 days. Guys, that is what we're talking about, changing the way we do business. And that starts with taking a look at our manufacturing operations and taking a look at it from a standpoint, do I have agility? Can I respond faster to unseen customer demand, to unseen challenges that are going to come up? And this is about bringing a new level of automation, marrying it with how we train our operators and how we take information and really change the way we look at business. And I promise you this, manufacturing is now becoming more and more strategic than it ever has before. It's becoming a very key part of our supply chain. We're going to change the way we plan and we collect our demand signals. We're going to get that into our design so that we know exactly what the customer wants. That handoff to manufacturing is going to become faster. And in manufacturing, where that heartbeat of the company happens, we're going to get it out the door, and we're going to get it in the hands of our customers. So we got to start thinking like strategically. We got to start thinking about speed, and we got to start thinking about agility. And then that drives efficiency, that drives cost, that drives quality. If we start looking at that bigger picture and the whole supply chain integrated together with financial data, customer data, supplier data, I know I sound like a broken record, but guys, bringing operational data together with enterprise data and looking at end-to-end business scenarios and how we solve them is how we're going to really transform the way your business looks, and manufacturing is a big part of that. It's going to set the strategy for the future. And it's starting in the boardroom, and it's going to start in manufacturing and work its way up. And when those two collide, that's when you're going to see change. So listen, guys, there's a lot of information we've written. My team's written out here on Industry 4.0 Strategy White Paper. I encourage you to go out to sap.com, look at this data, and if there's anything I can do with you, if you want to have a conversation on what we're seeing and how SAP can help you, I'd be more than happy to. If it touches the plant, that's in our digital manufacturing portfolio. And again, we're here to enable Industry 4.0 and enable where you want to be in the future of manufacturing and in the digital supply chain. So, Kevin, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Well, thanks so much, Mike. I really enjoyed your presentation. For our listeners, type your questions for Mike in the Ask a Question box, and we'll get to as many questions as time allows. Questions that we don't get to today will be posted online with the archived version. To download a certificate of completion, a copy of the presentation, use the Event Resources tab. And Mike, the first question I want to ask you is about cloud technology. And it's really had a big impact on enterprise software markets. And I was just hoping that you could kind of characterize how you see that impact and what it's going to mean going forward.
Kevin, thank you. Yes. So, the cloud really has taken off, right? It's taken off in analytics. It's taken off in enterprise software. But it's been a little latency in moving into the plants. And one of the reasons why is the ability it has to always be on. I can't lose my connection, because if I lose my connection, it shuts down my plant. If I can't produce, I can't ship, I can't bill, I can't report numbers, right? So there's been that issue. And then there was that sub-second response time that the cloud wasn't really adhered to. I mean, I got customers that says, Mike, I need your application need to collect data, analyze it, and tell that machine to go or no go in 150 milliseconds. And if they're on this session today, they're saying, Mike, you didn't listen to me. I need 50 milliseconds. So speed and always on. Well, we at SAP are solving that. We just released an edge component. So when we look at our digital manufacturing cloud, manufacturing execution cloud for execution, the heavy lifting is done in the cloud, and that really takes advantage. But now we have an edge component that sits at the factory that if you lose the connection to the cloud, the factory keeps running. It's got the orders, it's got the bill packages, machine programs, routings, everything is keyed up. You keep running. When the connection comes back on in the background, it enters that data back up, so you've got that one system of record. And now, being closer to the machine, I can deliver you that sub-second response time. So putting edge components there at the factory is now just starting to really come out. So what I see in the future is that you're going to see the cloud computing really take off in manufacturing at the plant level, because at the speed at which you can now roll out to multiple plants, you can do 24, 40 plants, in a year or in 9 months, if you have the right infrastructure and the right setup. So the speed at which you can roll it out and start getting that return and start getting that visibility is a really driving factor. And I really believe, we at SAP are working with partners like Microsoft Azure, who has great software at managing the at the point of contact at the plant. That's where our edge component it can be delivered through. So, a lot of the hyperscalers are working with us, the big application providers. Those are the type of ways that we're going to address the cloud at the plant level and make it available. Now, there'll always be on-prem. I think there's a great, a need for on-prem in these mega factories. But I can tell you, as you move out to these micro factories and as you look at the greenfield factories of the future, a lot of IT wants to take advantage. A lot of companies want to take advantage of the cloud. Not only can I roll it out faster, but every 90 days we're rolling out innovation, a new release that gets pushed out to our customers. So the innovation, the speed of the rollout, and the capabilities that we can deliver, I think you're going to see it. And it takes more investment, but that's why I think the latency is going to go away as we start seeing more and more of these edge components be able to be delivered at the plant.
But that's very interesting that an enterprise company would be just as interested in the edge as the automation companies. Your entire presentation was really about how Industry 4.0 is going to be templated over today's manufacturing enterprises. Give us a little bit of an evaluation of where you think most large and, on the other hand, mid-size enterprises are in that journey. Are they at that point where they're just starting to gather the data that's needed, or are they starting to run pilot programs with the data, or are they moving into production?
Every customer is at a different level or a different place on that digital transformation journey, right? We have a lot of customers today that are, have taken the principles of Industry 4.0 and they've moved it into production. They're seeing that more automation. They're seeing that faster return. They're selling products as a service versus, just the product itself. A lot of people believe that enterprise customers, the large enterprise customers, have the ability to do these digital transformations. But I can tell you, I'm seeing a lot at mid-sized company, even the small companies are now starting to turn on a dime, because I don't think it's about, hey, I want to drive out cost and innovation. With what's went on in the last 2 years, it's about survival. And if companies don't change their processes to be more, responsive to changing customer needs, to unpredictable social political movements that's happening in the countries where their plants are, where their biggest demands are, seasonal. If they can't respond fast like that, it's not about being profitable and being market leaders. It's about survival today. And so I believe what we're seeing across the board, companies are implementing. They're going down they're different places. Some of them are just now getting started, but a lot of our customers are really way down this path, and that is something that we're bringing as lessons learned. They're making us better every day with co-innovation and telling us how we can improve, and we're going to deliver on that. And so I don't think there's I can tell you that everyone's at the hockey stick and moving up fast, but we're seeing a lot of customers that are investing in Industry 4.0, and the whole key is understand what your business strategy is and where you want to be. And if you understand, what you want out of this, then it's time to get started and go down that path.
Good. And for a mid-sized manufacturer that's ready to start, where do you see that starting point? and what are some of the key best practices? I mean, that's a big question, but just some thoughts on what he should keep in mind, as he starts.
So, Kevin, you're asking me how do I bite the apple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, great question, guys. I get this question asked a lot. How do I get started down my Industry 4.0 journey? And I can tell you, 2 years ago, I get asked a lot of questions. I want Industry 4.0. And I said, well, what problem are you trying to solve? Well, I want Industry 4.0. Guys, putting out innovation and technology for the sake of adding technology it's not a win-win for anyone. You have to understand the business scenarios that you're wanting to solve, whether it's a new business model, it's, more innovation in your products, lower cost, to be more competitive, global expansion. Once you understand the business problems you can solve, now we're starting to go down that journey, and we understand how manufacturing fits in. This is what I tell people. You got to dream big. You can't look at the way you're doing business today because it won't be valid in the next 2 years. Where's your business going? So it starts in the boardroom, and understand the big picture of how you see, your business changing. Then you got to understand, then you got to build political collateral. You got to get buy-in from the C-level. So that's when you start with a project that has high visibility as a problem, you solve it, and you get a big return. Now all of a sudden you've got the CEO, COO, and the CFO on your side. And once you get them on your side, you better be able to move fast. You should be planning and know exactly how you want to move, because although you had a very successful project, that political collateral only lasts a short period of time. So be able to move fast. So accelerate the projects thereafter, know where you want to be. Do not let that latency go from that first approved project. Once you get the funding and the buy-off from the boardroom, man, start executing at a level like you've never executed before. And you'll be surprised at how the impact you're making on your business and on your ability to deliver on customer expectations. So that's what I see as best practices. There's a lot of system integrators out there, partners out there that have practices around Industry 4.0. Take advantage of it. They bring a lot of knowledge to the table. Leverage your in time. You've got to bring your shop floor people, your business people together with your IT group so that everybody's on the same page. And then you bring your solution providers. You bring your PLM vendors with your ERP vendors, with your manufacturing vendors closer together, and you lay out the groundwork. And I think when you start bringing that whole community together, that network I talked about, that's how you're going to see the change, and that's how you're going to accelerate the innovation and solve end-to-end business problems.
Well, thanks, Mike. We've only got about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask a final question, and it's more of a human resources kind of question, I suppose some would say, but it's what do you think about in terms of what types of talents or what types of skills would you look for in putting together a team bent on digital transformation in one form or another?
I think the biggest mistake companies make is that they leave the business owner out of it. So I think you have to bring in the business stakeholder with IT, right? I mean, IT understands the impact of the technology, how it's going to be managed and kept. So you usually have, IT, but I think the biggest formula for success is bring your business owners into it from day one. And I think you have to have knowledge. My recommendation is you bring in your ERP people with your manufacturing people. I even recommend you bring your enterprise guys in, the financial group in, and you bring in IT to this. You bring in your engineers. I believe it's the whole community, a representation of all the different aspects or facets of your business and the impact of what this digital transformation is going to have. I mean, I said bring in the design, the development team, right? If they know that your processes can move faster and have more innovation, then it can change the way they do design, right? It's that continuous improvement. And bring in the financial guys and know the impact that we're going to have here. The big thing is bring in the business owners with IT at the very beginning. Get the buy-off of the business owners with IT, and that's the biggest formula for success, and also get the buy-off at the board level. Once you have their backing, it makes it a lot smoother going down the path.
Well, thanks so much, Mike, for what was really an executive level presentation. We very much appreciate it. And I'd also like to extend special thanks to our sponsor, SAP, for sponsoring today's event. And now that we're just about done, we'd like to know how we did. The exit survey will pop up on your screen as soon as the webcast ends. Please take a moment to complete it because we use this information to improve our webcast. Finally, on behalf of Plant Engineering and SAP, thanks so much for attending. This concludes our broadcast, and we'll see you next time.